Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Nimisha Jadon from School of Studies Environmental Chemistry, Jivaji University, Gwalior. Today we are going to discuss here about the module Instrumental Techniques in Environmental Chemical Analysis under the paper of Environmental Analysis. The learning objective of this module including the introduction of analytical techniques, then the classification and the various types of instrumental techniques that we are using for the environmental analysis is with special emphasis on chromatographic and the spectroscopic method. The subdivision of chemistry dealing with the quantitative and the qualitative determination of chemical components of the substance is known as analytical chemistry. It is the branch of chemistry involved with quantitation and the qualitative identification of elements of the compounds, also called constitutional chemistry. Further, this technique is classified in two techniques, that is, number one is classical techniques and the second one is the instrumental techniques. The acid-base indicator test, redox type of titration is an example of the analytical chemistry carried out by the secondary student and comes under the classical technique. Here we are going to discuss about the various instrumental techniques used for the analysis of environmental pollutants present in the either in the air, water or soil sample.
Now we discuss here about the classification of analytical chemistry. The analytical chemistry is classified about their application part in clinical analytical chemistry, for example, the analysis of blood or urine. Then the environmental analytical chemistry, for example, analysis of heavy metals or the pesticides in soils and water. Then the forensic analytical chemistry, including the comparison of DNA codes or trace analysis of clothing, and it is also used in the quality control process, for example, the analysis of vitamin contents in food sample. The steps of chemical analysis including sampling, sample naming, sample preparation, analysis, signal recording, signal processing, then the evaluation of analysis result like correctness, exactness and the reproducibility, then plausibility check, certification and filing.
Here we are discussing about the various instrumental technique used for the environmental contaminant analysis. There are many instrumental techniques which are applied in the environmental analysis including chromatography, various types of chromatography that includes gas chromatography, high performance liquid chromatography like that is HPLC, ion chromatography, thin layer chromatography, supercritical fluid chromatography, size exclusion chromatography and capillary electrophoresis and electrochromatography. The other methods which are most frequently used for the environmental sample analysis is the spectroscopic techniques, that including the UV visible absorption spectroscopy, infrared spectroscopy, fluorimetry and chemiluminescence, X-ray fluorescence spectrometric method, atomic absorption and the flame emission spectroscopic method, atomic emission spectroscopy and nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, that is NMR. Apart from these two major techniques, the other methods that are used nowadays for the contaminant analysis including mass spectrometry, potentiometric method and voltammetric and coulometric method.
Now we discuss here about the chromatographic techniques. The chromatography is the process by which the components of a mixture can be separated, has become one of the primary analytical methods for the identification and the quantification of compounds in the gaseous or the liquid state. The basic principle is based on the concentration equilibrium of the components of interest between two immiscible phases. The one is known as stationary phase because it is immobilized within a column or fixed upon a support, while the second one is known as a mobile phase that is forced through the first. The phases are chosen such that components of the sample have differing solubilities in each phase. The mobile phase is an inert gas, and as above, this form of chromatography can be subdivided according to the nature of the phase components. The number one of the chromatography technique is known as the gas or the liquid chromatographic technique, that is GLC, gas liquid chromatographic technique. As indicated above, the mobile phase here is a gas and the stationary phase is an immobilized liquid, either by impregnated or by bonding to an inert support, which could be quite simple and inner surface of the column. This is the technique that commonly called gas phase chromatography, that is GC. The second chromatographic technique that is used for the analysis of environmental sample is the supercritical fluid chromatography. Here the mobile phase is a fluid in its supercritical state such as carbon dioxide at about 50 degrees centigrade and at more than 150 bar. The stationary phase can be a liquid or a solid, and this technique combines the advantages of over liquid-liquid and gas-liquid chromatography. Here this figure shows the schematic representation of a gas chromatography. There is a carrier gas supply, the inert gas, that is the mobile phase throughout the system. Generally, nitrogen, helium, argon are used as a carrier gas in the gas GC, but the most frequently used or most versatile used inert gas is nitrogen for the gas chromatograph. The flow rate of the gas is maintained by the pressure gauge or the regulator, and then it is transferred to the column, and then it goes to the detector, and then the recorder recorded the flow of the mobile phase as well as the sample present in the mixture. In the injection port, when the system is totally saturated with the nitrogen, then the sample is injected into the column and the temperature of the injection port, oven and the detector kept enough high so that all the ions components that are present in the solution is ionized properly, and these ionic forms or the gases are then transported to the column that is housed in a oven, and where the separation of these ions takes place, then they are finally detected by the detector. Here are various type of specific detectors used in the GC for the recording the various types of pollutants in the environment. For example, like electron capture detector is used for the determination of pesticide, and the flame ionization detectors are used for the determination of hydrocarbons present in the air.
Now we are going to discuss here the second most important methods of environmental contaminant analysis, that is high performance liquid chromatography, also known as HPLC. Of all the chromatographic techniques whose mobile phase is a liquid, high performance liquid chromatography is perhaps the best known technique. Its fields of application overlaps a large section of gas phase chromatography, to which can be added the analyte of many compounds that are thermolabile or very polar or of a high molecular weight substances. Its sources is also due to the possibility for the chromatographer to act in a very precise manner upon the selectivity between the compounds through an appropriate choice of columns and element composition by exploiting the solute mobile phase or the stationary phase interaction.
Here is the schematic representation of the high performance liquid chromatographic system where the mobile phase is liquid, so it is capped in a solvent container from where the solvent is passed through the column by using the pump. Then pump maintain the constant flow rate of the mobile phase throughout the column. Here the column are used are small in size as comparative to GC, and when we inject the sample, then this carrier mobile liquid mobile phase carry out the sample throughout the HPLC column where the separation of the species takes place, and after that the detector shows the sensitivity of that particular compounds and detect the signal of the contaminants that are present in the sample. And the major advantage of this technique is that the waste is collected by after the determination of this method, so that we can collect here an important products or byproducts from the environmental sample. The best example of the determination of environmental contaminants through the HPLC, that including the various types of pharmaceuticals that are present in the environment, then the other contaminants like various other like advanced pesticides like organophosphate, carbamates can also be detected by using HPLC techniques, and many more compounds which are thermally unstable that can be analyzed by using HPLC technique. The third one important chromatography is known as chiral chromatography. A molecular organic compounds whose structure formula reveals the presence of an asymmetric center leads generally to a mixture of two possible enantiomers, that is R and S, in variable quantities. If such a mixture is chromatographed on a column packed with a chiral stationary phase, a phase that contains active sites corresponding to only one enantiomer are, for example, and the two peaks will be observed on a chromatograph. Here is the picture of separation through the chiral chromatography of the compound. When the solution passed through the column is made up of silica gel, and here the chiral compounds are separated out by using the specific type of mobile phase, and then these chiral compounds are collected, passed through the detector column, and then detected by the detector. The sample of the compound is also collected and it can be recovered by the passing solution. The example of such kind of determination is the enantiomer of some glucose containing compounds, and the determination of these compounds in a blood sugar level, or their determination in the plasma also, that we can done by using this chiral chromatography. The next one is the ion chromatography. The ion chromatography is a separation technique which shares numerous common features with HPLC, yet possesses sufficient novel aspects such as its principle of separation or modes of detection to make it the object of a separate study. Ion chromatography is adapted to the separation of ions and polar compounds. The mobile phase is composed of an aqueous ionic medium and the stationary phase is an ion exchange resin. Besides the detection methods based on the absorbance or the fluorescence, ion chromatography also uses electrochemical methods based on the ionic nature of the species to be separated. Its greatest utility is for the analysis of anions, for which there are no other rapid analytical method. Here in this picture, the anion exchanger stationary phase particle and the cation exchanger stationary phase particles are observed, where if it is anion exchanger stationary phase particle, they attracted the positive negative ion from the solution, and the metals, the anions like chloride, sulfide, and the other ions that are present in the water attached to this stationary phase, and then you can identify the presence of anion by using the anion presence of cations by using this anion exchange stationary phase. Similarly, the various metal ion are also determined by using the cation exchange stationary phase particle, and we can classify or detect the trace amount of heavy metal present in the water by using ion chromatography. The next one is the thin layer chromatography. The thin layer chromatography, also known as the planar chromatography, is an invaluable method used in chemistry and biochemistry, complementary to HPLC while having its own specificity. Although these two methods are applied differently, the principle of separation and the nature of the phases remain the same. Cheap and sensitive, this technique that is simple to use can be automated by using the advanced thin layer chromatography. It has become essential principally since it is possible to undertake several separations in parallel. The development of automatic applicator and the densitometers have led to the nano TLC, and also known as HPTLC, that is high performance thin layer chromatography. It is a highly sensitive technique which can be hyphenated with mass spectrometry. This is the picture of the thin layer plate from where, when we spotted a sample and then dip into the eluent, then the eluent is passes through this plate due to the capillary action or by the force of gravity, or the distance traveled by the spot is calculated, and this is the qualitative parameter of any species present in a solution. Now we discuss here about the applications of chromatographic method. GC is used in the analysis of various classes of persistent organic contaminants in air, water, soil, sediments, and the biota. The organic pollutants groups covered are volatile organic compounds, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, pesticides, and halogenated compounds. These halogenated compounds includes polychlorinated dibenzopyridioxanes and dibenzofurans, polychlorinated biphenyls, terphenyls, naphthalenes, and alkenes, organochlorine pesticides, and the brominated flame retardant, polybrominated biphenyls, and polybrominated diphenyl ethers in the as a contaminant in the water and the air. Apart from this, the other techniques of like HPLC, chiral chromatography are also used for the analysis of pharmaceutical and some pesticides and fertilizers in the soil and the water sample. The next application of the chromatographic techniques including the fingerprinting oil spills. One of the more demanding applications for chromatography is the fingerprinting of oil products associated with oil spills at sea. Then the identification of unknown pollutants on brownfield. The brownfield sites can also contain unknown polymeric materials which require identification so that they can be disposed of safely. Two mass spectrometric techniques can be used for such types of analysis. Now we discuss here about the various spectroscopic methods for the environmental analysis. The number one spectroscopic method is ultraviolet visible absorption spectroscopy. The absorption by matter of electromagnetic radiation in the domain ranging from the near ultraviolet to the very near infrared between 180 to 1100 nanometer has been studied extensively. This portion of the electromagnetic spectrum designated as the UV visible, since it includes radiation perceptible to the human eye, generally yields little structural information but is very useful for quantitative measurement. Here is the schematic representation of UV visible spectrophotometric technique, in which the deuterated lamp or the tungsten lamp is used as a light source of UV visible range. Then this light is passes through the diffraction grating or the monochromator, which absorbs the other irradiated light, and only desired wavelength is passing through the reference cell or the sample cell. Then this beam of light is splitted and one beam is passes through the reference cell that contain the blank or the distilled water to subtract the impurities present in the regenerating solvent, and the another beam is passed through the sample cell which contain the absorbing sample, so that these sample absorb the UV visible radiations, and the transmitted light is detected by the detector. Is generally phototubes or photomultiplier tubes are used here as a detector.
The concentration of an analyte in a solution can be determined by measuring the absorbance at some wavelength and applying the Lambert-Beer's law. The method is known as colorimetry and considered as the workhorse of many laboratories. Colorimetry applies not only to the compounds possessing an absorption spectrum in that spectral region, but equally to all those compounds which, following modification by specific reagents, lead to derivatives which permits absorption measurements. The next method that we are discussing here is the infrared spectroscopy. The analytical infrared studies are based on the absorption or the reflection of the electromagnetic radiation that lies between 1 and 100 meter, 1 to 1000 meter. This is one of the most common spectroscopic technique used for compound identification and measuring of the concentrations in many samples. This spectral range is subdivided into three smaller areas: the near infrared region that lies between the 1 to 25 meter, the mid infrared region that is that lies in between the 25 to 50 meter, and the far infrared region that is beyond the 25 meter. Although the near IR is poor in specific absorption, it is considered as an important method by quality control laboratories for quantitative applications. By contrast, the mid-IR region provide more information upon the structures of the compounds, and consequently it is much used as a procedure for identifying organic compounds, for which it remains a form of functional group fingerprinting. The far IR requires the use of specialized optical materials and sources. To conduct these analysis, there is a full range of instruments from Fourier transform spectrophotometer to a multiplicity of the analyzer of dispersive or non-dispersive type specialized in the measurement of predefined compound, for example analysis of gases and vapors, or which allow the continuous analysis on production line.
This is the schematic representation of IR spectrophotometer, where the IR source are used to generate the IR radiation that is passed through the reference and the sample cell simultaneously, so that reagent solvent correction can be made by this process. Then the sample cell is absorbed the IR radiation, which can be transferred to the detector. There is the photo tubes or photomultiplier tubes are used as a IR source. So the sample, either it will be a solid or liquid, can absorb this IR radiation, and the percentage transmittance is determined by this photomultiplier tube detector. The next one is the fluorimetry and the chemiluminescence. Some organic and the inorganic compounds like liquid or solids, like molecular or ionic crystals, whether pure or in solution, emit light when they are excited by photons from the visible or the near ultraviolet regions. Among the analytical applications of this phenomena known as photoluminescence, and this is the principle of fluorimetry. This is a selective and highly sensitive method for which a wide range of measurements are accessible. The intensity of the fluorescence is proportional to the concentration of the analyte, and the measurements are made with the aid of fluorimeters or the spectrofluorometers. The extremely rapid extinction of the light intensity when excitation ceases is the object of analysis. By contrast, fluorescence is characterized by a more gradual diminution during time. The fluorescence is equally employed as the basis of detectors used in liquid chromatography. This is the schematic representation of the working of fluorimetry. Here, the source of fluorescent light is transferred to the monochromator, so that only desired wavelength is passed through the sample cell. In the sample, the particles are emitted the fluorescent light, which is then transferred the emitted light. The second one, monochromator, transfer this emitted light to the detector, and then detector identified the concentration of compound by using this emitted light. Then amplifier amplifies the signal, and recorder record the signal of the impurities present in a fluorimeter.
The next method that we are discussing here is the X-ray fluorescence spectrometry. The X-ray fluorescence is an atomic spectral property universally recognized as a very accurate method currently exploited under the same name to provide qualitative and the quantitative information on the elemental composition of all types of samples. The principle of operation involves irradiating the sample either with an X-ray beam or by the bombardment with the particles such as electrons having sufficient energy in order to observe the resulting X-ray fluorescence emitted by the sample. The universal character of this phenomena, as well as the possibility to rapidly examine samples, most often without preparations, explains largely the axis of this non-destructive analytical method. The technique encompasses a wide variety of instruments ranging in size from portable analyzers of portable analyzers for instant analysis to high resolution spectrometers including X-ray probes fitted to scanning electron microscopes to make specified analysis or a mapping of the elements present.
Here is the schematic representation of X-ray fluorescence spectrometry. In this method, the number one here is the sample, the second one is the anode X-ray source, third is the X-ray collimator, fourth is the crystal known d-spacing, fifth is the detector, sixth is the electronic devices which is used to amplify the signal, and seventh one is the output. So in this instrument, when the X-ray sources emits the X-ray radiation which is passed through the sample, and the radiation which is transmitted from the sample cell goes in a analyzing crystal where the different types of banding are done by the d-spacing crystal, and after that this radiation are detected by the detector and shows as an output signal through the computer. The next is the atomic absorption or the flame emission spectroscopy. The atomic absorption spectroscopy is also known as AS, and the flame emission spectroscopy is known as FES, also called flame photometry, are the two analytical or the measurement methods relying on the spectroscopic processes of excitation and emission. The methods of quantitative analysis only, and they are used to measure the around 70 elements, metals or non-metals. Many models of these instruments allow measurements to be conducted by these two techniques, although their functioning principles are different. There exists a broad range of applications as concentration to the gram per liter, that is ppb level, can be assessed for certain elements. Generally, heavy metals and the rare earth metal can be analyzed by using this absorption techniques. This is the picture of atomic flame photometry or atomic absorption spectrophotometer, from where the analyte is entered through in the flame atomizer and it is burned out at the very high temperature so that the particles of the metal is atomized and goes into the higher energy state. And when we pass through the beam of light by the hollow cathode lamp, at that frequency they are atomized, then they absorb light and goes down to the ground level, and this change in the difference in the energy level, it is detected by the detector, and that is again it is converted into the concentration of a substance present in the solution. So most of the trace metals or the other rare earth metal can be determined by using this technique.
The next method that we are discuss here is the atomic emission spectroscopy. The analysis by atomic emission spectroscopy constitutes a general method for measuring elements on the study of the radiation emitted by their atoms present in an excited state, usually following the ionization. Several procedures are used to break down the samples into their constitutive elements, most notably by the effect of high temperature plasmas, spark sources, or glow discharges. The emission being far more complex than those of flame emission, and the instruments required very high quality optics to resolve interferences from both spectral lines and the matrix effects.
Next one technique is the nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. The NMR is a powerful and theoretically complex analytical tool that allows the study of compounds in either solution or in the solid state and serves equally in quantitative as in structural analysis, though it is especially in the latter where it is very efficient to in gathering structural information concerning molecular compounds. It is therefore of particular practical importance to organic chemistry and biochemistry and used as a complementary technique to methods of optical spectroscopy and mass spectrometry. It leads to precise information concerning the structural formula and the stereochemistry, and in some cases the preferred conformation of molecules and even to the identity of the compound studies. For all of these reasons, NMR has become one of the principal study techniques for inorganic crystals as well as the molecular structures. This is the schematic representation of the NMR instrument. Here in this there is a sample tube where high frequency radio waves is passes through this sample cell, and here the heavy sweep coils of are placed in the both side of the sample tube, which are used to maintain a high magnetic field. And when we apply the radio frequency which is resonate comparative to the high magnetic field, then the ions of the solution is flipped to the lower energy to the higher energy state, and this change in the energy level is determined by using amplifier or the detector, and then it is recorded as a presence of hydrogen ion or the other ion present in the sample. The next one technique is the mass spectrometry. The mass spectrometry is an analytical method of characterizing matter based on the determination of atomic or the molecular masses of individual species present in a sample. The instruments employed for carrying out mass spectrometry can be classified into different categories according to the mass separation technique used. The some are derived from assemblies developed at the beginning of the 20th century for the study of particles or ionized atoms submitted to a magnetic field, while others rely upon different principles. The continuous improvement have made mass spectrometry the most versatile and widely used analytical method available today. The miniaturization and the emergence of new ionization techniques allow to this method to be present in a variety of sectors like organic and inorganic chemistry, biochemistry, clinical and environmental chemistry, and geochemistry. Now, this technique is also equipped with the other techniques like gas chromatography or the high performance liquid chromatography. So, their sensitivity of those instruments increases by connecting with the mass spectrometry, and these combination of these two techniques are frequently used to analyze various types of environmental contaminants in the soil and the water sample. Here is the schematic representation of mass spectrometry where the sample is passed through the vacuum chamber where the ionization of sample takes place, and the fragments ion are passes through the quadrupole system from where the unused ions are settled down, and only desired ion are passes through the detector which is detected substance present in the sample, and then it is displayed by using the computer.
Now we discuss here the next procedure, that is potentiometric method. A great deal of quantitative measurements in chemical analysis are based on electrochemistry. called electrochemical methods. They can be separated into two categories: those based upon the measurement of potential, that is potentiometry, and those which are exploit the measurement of current, that is voltammetry. The first group which is developed in this chapter use the ion selective electrode. The first group which is developed here used ion selective electrode, and the principle of these chemical sensors is to create an electric cell in which the analyte behaves in such a way that the potential difference obtained relates to its concentration. The measurement of pH, probably the most common and the best known electroanalytical method, is part of this group. The most of the measurement concern the determination of ion in aqueous solution through the particular electrodes with selective membrane also allow the determination of molecules. So these potentiometric method nowadays are using as a selective method for the analysis of various type of water pollutant sample.
This is the picture of potentiometer where the two electrodes are dipped in a different solution and they are working as a anode and cathode, and here in between the salt bridge is used. These type of potentiometer are also used as a fuel cell for the generating energy in the remote areas, and also the potentiometer is also used to purify the water and the other contaminant solution from the ions. When we passes the current, then both the electrode ionize the electrolyte solution and the electrons are passing through the salt bridge, and they can be separated and deposited at the surface of the electrode, and the remaining solution is going to be clean, or the energy also generated by this system because the electrons are produced here, which can be converted into the electric energy.
So at the end of this module, we discuss here in detail about the different branches of analytical chemistry. The chromatographic methods like gas chromatography, thin layer chromatography, high performance liquid chromatography, ion exchange, and many more methods nowadays used for the analysis of various environmental pollutants in other various types of environmental factors like soil, water, air. We have also discussed here in detail about the various spectroscopic methods like IR, UV, AS, NMR and their application in the analysis of environmental contaminants. We have also discussed here about the application of these methods for the environmental analysis, as well as we have discussed some other electrochemical or the potentiometric method for the analysis of environmental samples. Thank you so much.